Hey, good morning. I'm restarting a video that I had started about 30 minutes ago, but didn't work out too well with the phone ringing and my lack of preparation and focus. So this is going to be a four-part for the next 4 Saturdays. Today, the first one, where I will discuss through a systems thinker's perspective uh, the failing medical cultures in Canada. Of course, I'll talk about my own stories, but of course, many of you will relate in various ways to these stories. First, I wanted to say that next time I'll have a dry eraser board where at the beginning I'll write the medical system and how it impacts different things, like in the life of a person, like employment, um, the ability to partake in healthy relationships, doing your taxes, the labels that people might have, also any limitations that are supposedly compensated for in a healthy society or not, all sorts of interconnections that I'll discuss. The first thing I want to say now is that there were times in my life that I could have been considered through deeper depressions as being suicidal, but I've never been suicidal in the sense, I should put a warning, I guess. People want warnings for triggers, and I understand that. I understand that if, let's say, I'm a counselor and I know somebody is vulnerable or susceptible to these triggers, but now I'm just doing a life thing. I don't know who's going to see this. So yeah, I'll be talking about mental health, okay? And it's almost like we shouldn't even do this anymore. These warnings is people should just make it a more open conversation everywhere, really. So I remember there was a time the first year I arrived on Vancouver Island when I was in the bathtub, and it was a time that the depression was deep of despair and it lasted a while, and I was in a totally new part of the world for the first time, far away from my familiar surroundings and acquaintances and family and friends. Uh, which of course it's over there I discovered, that I had to redefine family and friends as well. And I remember being in the bathtub and thinking, if I died right now, that'd be pretty sweet. And observing these kind of thoughts is, whoa, that's pretty that's pretty serious kind of thinking. And I remember also getting out of that depression. I remember thinking how joyful I was to just have one or two hopeful or happy thoughts in the day. Because when you get to the point of being suicidal in your thinking, not in your planning, but in your thinking, and that depressed is when a good thought appears once in a while and you're good at your own metapsychology, paying attention to what you're feeling and thinking, like observing it, whoa, that was a positive thought. I had one today or two today or three today, and you're kind of on the way to get better. But I'm not suicidal now, and I will never be again. But I want to say that there's many scenarios that I can envision in my head, and I don't spend a lot of time doing this, where I would welcome my death. Like, for example, if I go get some lactose-free milk at the grocery store today and I feel lightheaded and I pass out and I wake up in a hospital and they tell me I've been there passed out for a few hours and they've done tests. They have done some tests and then they discover I have, let's say, abdominal cancers of various kind that is spread, and they say it's very aggressive. We have, because you're young, we'll start right now, you're here. And we'll skip the waiting period because you collapsed in a store. That gave you an advantage. And I didn't even know, right? I just was there to buy milk. And I would say, well, no, thank you. And they say, well, you might only have 3 or 6 months to live. And I say, well, I don't know if you know me, but there's a lot of videos on my YouTube that kind of will explain why that's not the worst news I've ever gotten. And it's not that I want to die. It's just that I want to live a life of quality, not quantity. My worldview is specific to how I believe my sentience and sapience have developed. I don't fear death. I fear that maybe after I die, even though I'm very specific with how I want my body to be, disposed of in a composting kind of way, but not in a, throw it somewhere in a compost container. That's not what I mean. I worry about that, but I'll only worry a little bit because I'll realize, well, just do your best saying what you want your wishes to be, and you kind of know the people primates that suffer from HSD, and I suffer from species alienation because you suffer from HSD. I kind of know it probably won't turn out the way I want, but I'll be dead. So, my body is my body, and they can do all sorts of things that make them feel better. And I know that they will violate my rights after I'm dead as much as they did when I was alive. So one of the reasons that I would not want treatments is that in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've documented so many bad experiences of medical system failures towards me in Canada, and I've only begun to post some of these and talk about some of these. Really, there's a lot, and they've been well documented. That's one of the reasons I would not want my human rights violated. I would not want to feel dehumanized by the medical system attempting to give me treatments. And by the way, the medical system, when it comes to cancer treatments, is a little bit better than other types of medical treatments, I would say. But still, I'm different than the norm, so I wouldn't get the best reactions from people. Let's say I'm not good at taking on the victim personality, which make it easier for people to be sympathetic. Let's say I want to talk about philosophical stuff at the same time in the news, and people don't feel comfortable with that. Then I wouldn't get the same cancer treatments that other people do. So that means I'd feel like I have to do it their way, or I have to kind of be the person they want me to be, because their job's hard enough already to be around a dying person. So they can't reference the outside world that well. So I don't want to be subjected to those kind of things, which are typical of your people primate species. So I would decide, no, I'm okay, and I can handle pain better than the norm. And meds, you can prescribe me some, and I'll probably take a lot less than the average person would, because having a mind that functions fairly well, and sometimes it might function better with a painkiller, and sometimes it might not. So I'm not suicidal. I just want to live a life of quality, and getting treatments, whether it extends my life or not, where it would not be of quality among your species anyways. I don't want to subject myself to that during medical treatments, whether they are going to succeed or fail. I would prefer avoiding further victimizations by the medical system, okay? Because it'd be hard for me, for example, not to talk about how I feel about the past interactions with the medical structures in various provinces of Canada. So it'd be hard not to talk about that during the medical treatments of cancer if I had such a thing. I don't know, maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't want to try to find out. I've been doing better at my health in the last few years by avoiding the medical system, and mostly how it dehumanizes me, and it makes me feel like they wish I would leave the planet. And I kind of feel the same way about the human primates. So I'm not suicidal. I'm still pursuing a life of quality. There are various things that would make me want to fight for my life, even in a failed medical system, and it would be having the chance to participate in a great relationship of love, or being in a job where it is worthy of the skill sets I want to offer and matches my worldviews and values and ethics and morals. It wouldn't be for a paycheck as much as it would be to be part of the solution. If I had already been involved in such a thing, which I'm still trying to do, these two things that are maybe my top two priorities, then of course I'd be fighting for these treatments. But I'd also be kind of wondering if I should be getting them in Canada. So what I'm going to talk about now, because I want to keep this short, is how much medicine I have left, which is enough for not even 2 days, okay? And I've been taking modafinil for about a decade, I guess. And there should be a medical system set up already in Canada where this can be verified by computers, where I should be able to just call an 800 number and say, okay, I don't have a regular doctor, but you can verify with the system that I've been on this medicine for a long time. When I was depressed, I took 1 or 2 medicines actually helped with that. I went through a few depressions in the past, and I'm not worried about those deep depressions anymore, by the way. but there was always like still something missing. I knew I didn't achieve the quality of life that I wanted, which is my fundamental human right. Otherwise, why fight for just longitude? Is that the right word? No, just an extended life when it's not of quality, right? My sentience and sapience says that's ridiculous. I mean, the probabilities might be there that something great would show up in the future, but I'm also an independent scientist studying your proto societies, and I know that that's less likely every year. So this medicine, what it did for me was to reset sleeping patterns where I fall asleep earlier and wake up earlier and be a lot more productive. And it also helped with focus and also working memory and in various ways that memory works together. I remember telling a doctor, I said, this happens to me a lot, that I go to another room and I cross the kind of doorway and I kind of forgot while I'm there what I went there to get. And of course, I can compensate, for example, by getting frustrated and say, okay, just look around you, you're usually within arm's reach. That's an example of something in the past before I got on this medicine. And I just posted a Badminton video that shows I've been rationing this, taking a lot less than I should be taking because I'm running out. So it's sad. Let's say I want to belong to a country where the only thing that I believe I would want to invest in, having a care card or my taxes deducted for this, an employer deducting anything for medical, is if I could get this medicine. And this medicine, I've been off a few times, not by choice, because the medical system in Canada made it too challenging for me, way too challenging and dehumanizing, and also greedy to try to take money from a poor person even more when they didn't need to, and long waiting periods and abusive attitudes, not okay. So just getting medicine, if that was my only goal, to get this medicine that is good for me, that's been good for me for 10 years, is Canada is still a failure. I'm going to play a conversation from the phone from yesterday. And again, I want to say that the reason that I'm not on Vancouver Island in my motorhome right now, and I should be soon, the weather is improving, probably in a few more weeks I'll be there. But the BC Ministry of Poverty Creation, along with MLAs really, because I tried getting help, is they didn't care enough about me as a human being to actually help me secure a place to even plug my motorhome and try to put a good tarp on it and survive the winter in it. So I didn't have power for a furnace or heat, and I'd already experienced some intense cold and hardships, and I did not want to try to see if I'd survive the winter or not. I didn't need to prove this to myself or take that risk, even though they were totally okay with it. So I found a place to house sit where I was hoping to raise funds for solar panels, which I did not succeed. So yesterday I made one attempt, and there's other things I could try, but again, they are likely to fail. They're likely to expect unreasonable things for me, like to go far away for appointments of something as simple as this, as getting a renewal of a medicine, and to actually charge for it, because we've blended our public and private sectors in a way that, they quadruple charge for everything. So it's not something I want to participate in. Now, if I'm off this medicine, I cannot get a life of quality. I can survive. It doesn't kind of keep my heart beating, but it keeps my mind functioning in a way that keeps me happy, because it keeps me productive at seeking the kind of things that would make me be happy to be alive. So again, you'll be, explained a lot of these interconnected patterns. As a systems thinker, I'll offer this and how they link to many different things when I pursue in the next few weeks the same subject about failing medical structures in Canada that I don't see any signs of getting better when, things became more obvious to the average person of how much it was failing in Canada through the COVID crisis. There's a collaboration between two political parties right now. They are focusing, I believe, on dental care before medical care, because I believe the elites in the medical system are a lot more powerful or unwavering as movers and shakers, and it'll also be great practice to fix things or improve things or equalize the rights of people in the dental before the medical. So that's one of the reasons, but I don't think the government realizes how corrupt it is, or the average Canadian doesn't realize that really to fix things at human levels, you would be putting, hundreds of doctors in each provinces in jail, really, is what you should be doing for things that they've done that is very, very horrible. So if, in a country that has shortages of doctors, I don't see those levels of accountability. And, there'll be a few steps forwards, but more steps backwards. So again, Canada's not the worst in the world, but I definitely don't think it's has a chance to get better. So I'm going to play this video conversation from yesterday, this audio conversation from yesterday.
Okay, so what is the number? Because what I did on the search on the internet to try to find a doctor that on the phone will renew a medicine I've been on for a decade because I don't have a regular doctor is what number? Where I thought BC, I thought we had, like a number to call for just getting simple on the phone kind of services. I thought there was that started during COVID, if not already before. Okay, then what I'm going to do, if you want me to deal with her, is I'm going to write down the phone number for her clinic and contact her there, I guess, and maybe they will do a phone appointment. Okay, I'm not calling that place now. I'm not calling that clinic. Oh, okay. How come it showed up on the internet for her name? Okay. Okay, so you are her regular clinic, but you can't get me just a time on the phone where she'll call me and renew my. Not taking more patients, and you know that I'm away right now and I'm running out of medicine, but that's kind of your answer. It's kind of this black and white. Okay. Okay, and you're saying that even if I call the other clinic, uh, with her, even when they book an appointment when she's there. Okay. Okay, but if I call them, they might get me a walk-in phone appointment.
They really want you to do
Only in person. And it's only for a renewal of prescription that they can verify with the province of BC I've been on, and it's been covered for about a decade. Yeah, but I don't get that. I don't get how.
Sometimes pharmacists want to help.
No. I mean, you've explained it. I understand it. I just don't understand why kind of you kind of want to persist in the medical leads. So you don't know of a different BC 800 number where you talk to a doctor, they can go with your care card number on your PharmaCare account or MSP or whatever and verify, oh yeah, you've been on this for a long time. It's too bad Dr. McCrae didn't give you more renewals like you requested when she charged you a fee. So there's no numbers like this? A province-wide thing, you don't know of one, so there probably isn't one because you would know, right? That it's a province-wide thing. Yeah, it kind of gets me pretty discouraged to kind of receive medical services in BC or Canada, and that it. Okay, but you're saying that. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. So this is an example of why I've been avoiding for multiple years the idea of believing that there is adequate medical care in Canada. It's just another recent example.
That was just a phone call from yesterday, a recent example. I didn't expect miracles. I mean, there's other few things I could try, but it's so frustrating. And I know it's not good for me to be off this medicine, but it's so frustrating interacting with the system. Do you know the drug pushers? I really need just a drug pusher, and they have this tiny little paper, and it'll take like less than a minute. They open it, it'll pad less than a minute if they've been listening to what I said. If they look at the old bottles I bring that shows I've been on it from another doctor, they don't like that there's multiple doctors in these bottles. It's not the same one for the last few years because I haven't had a regular doctor. And they create this complication, and yet they turn it against you by finding it suspicious. And they say, oh, no, I'm not going to give you that much at first. You'll come back and pay me again to be your drug pusher. And it takes less than a minute to fill this out and give this piece of paper. But I can't even get these drug pushers easily without feeling worse about life and about receiving medical services. It's crazy. And I'll explain this to them or this lady on the phone. And I mean, the only thing they can do is to kind of quit their job and go with a sign and petition, right? Who's going to do that? I mean, they barely do it for themselves or their own kids. They're not going to do it for a stranger. So again, things are not getting fixed here. People are not talking about the right things. They're not talking about things in the medical system in Canada with the right intensity that shows they have altruistic type ideation, right? They can actually reference other people and the outrage. They just don't. So yes, this is going to be the beginning of a series of the medical reasons and how they're all interconnected with various aspects of life that also involve many other elites within Canada and why I want to leave. All right.